To make this bracelet, you'll need 48 inches of 1.5 millimeter cord. This is red natural dyed leather cord. And you want to fold it in half. Tie a loop on the end. You got to make sure that the loop will fit your button, plus a little bit of a knot that'll stick out the top. That looks pretty good. And then you want to start by starting a square knot, and then add your spike, and you want the cord to run right in the groove. And so if the first pass goes over, the next pass is going to go under. You want it tight, but not too tight, because the tighter it is, the more stiff the bracelet's going to be. And then you want to just go over the top again. Basically with the knots you're alternating over, under, and in between every other one you're adding a spike. So you just can keep doing that until you've added all your spikes. So I'll pause it here. Alright, once you've reached the end, or near the end, it's going to be kind of wobbly. I usually just kind of stretch it a little bit. And this cord is kind of waxy, so your knots are going to be inclined to, basically the shinier the cord is, the less it will hold a knot. So in this circumstance, I'm going to hold the spike on here, curl it around and through. Basically it's the same knot that you did for the loop. And if it's a cotton cord, you don't really have to worry about this. You can just end on a square knot. But you want to kind of push it up towards the spike and then pull it down. That way it's more, it'll stay in basically. Okay, and then you need to add your button. And sometimes these buttonholes are a little too, they might be jagged in the middle, or they'll be a little bit too small. If that's the case, we'll just trim it at an angle. Kind of give myself something to hang on to when I pull it through. Pull it all the way down to the knot, and then tie another one of those knots approximately where you want it. I'm guessing right about there. Yeah. Just go like that. And sometimes when you tie a knot like this, they'll twist. And if it twists like that, it won't be as clean of a knot. So I just kind of make sure that it's running flat all the way around. So it kind of goes up and around like that. So it makes a nice clean knot. And then pull it. Trim it. easy way to put these on is to go over the knot first and then slide it sideways and then slide it on the other side. And then you've got a bracelet. I also made this one out of 2mm black cotton cord and brass 1/2-inch tree spikes, a little brass button. And I made this one out of faux suede, a two-tone. Basically the same thing, only when you start, you tie a knot at the end of your loop. So you tie the knot, tie another knot, there's your loop, continue on. If you're using faux suede though, don't pull it too tight because it will snap. I actually did that when I made this bracelet. I pulled it too tight when I was about right here and went psh, so I had to start over. But I like the effect. This is for the kid. She'll probably like this. She likes pink and black. So those are the things that you can make with this particular bracelet technique. Provided you can actually get the button clasped. They are a little harder with the knot, but it still works. For this one, we're going to need 11 pieces of vinyl that are 1/2 inch by 2 inches. I made a few extra just in case I mess up. A leather punch, some spikes, and some of those rubber bands from the Rainbow Loom. I got these at Joann Fabrics. And you're going to punch them, so you fold it over about 1/3, fold it over again, and when I punch into stuff, I try to hold it just by pressing lightly with my punch, and then adjust it like that. Look at it from that side, look at it from that side, and when it looks good, punch it, and then spin it a little bit, in case, you know, if you have a dull leather punch like me. And then you want to take a rubber band, fold it over twice, and then open up your piece of vinyl, slip it on there, fold it over twice, slip it on there, and then line up the hole, and then put the screw in from the bottom. And to do this, I usually hold it with my fingernail, and then until I get my screwdriver in there, and then just screw it in. And then put the spike on it. Tighten it up pretty good. And that's what you have. That's your first link. And then you want to make another one. And I try to leave a little tiny gap if I can, just to hold the rubber band. And then I try to keep my flaps going in the same directions, but it's not really necessary. So this is going like that, so I just open it up, pull the band open, take another rubber band, and sometimes these rubber bands will break, so I usually stretch them out before I choose the ones that I'm going to put on there. I'll just, you know, kind of pull them. If they break, I'll just chuck them. Line up the hole. And then put another screw in. add your spike. And now you have another link. So I'll pause the video until I get all the way around to the end, until I get to the last one. Alright, I got most of it done, so I'm going to check the sizing. I've got 10 on here. Looks like 11 was a pretty good estimate. So for the last one, I messed that one up. For the last one, just punch it. And then you've already got the rubber band on the other side. So just connect it, match up the holes. And add the final spike. And you got a bracelet. And you can change it by, or change the sizing by, starting with 3-inch strips, or you can also make it wider and make a double row. If you make a double row, I'd recommend using, rather than twist it, I'd use 2 layered. That way if one of them breaks, which, if you pull them beforehand, they probably won't break, at least not right away. You probably get some good wear out of it. But even if they do break, you can easily take the spike off and replace it. But the 2 will add some strength. Wow, looks pretty cool. And here's another one I made. Basically, it's a little bit smaller. How many spikes do I got on here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12. Oh, that's what I did wrong. Or different. This is a 1.5-inch strip, and I kind of want it to be in a perfect square around the spike. So it's 1.5 by 1/2-inch strips, and then I used colored rubber bands, just alternate red, yellow, blue, all the way around. Very cool. Oh yeah, one more thing. If sometimes these will stick out, these little flaps here, and you can just trim them. Oops. Do it this way, it'll be easier. That way they won't, poke you in the wrist or whatever. And just go all the way around. And then switch sides. Clip. Clip. Yeah, I'll keep going on that. So there you go. Now this is a double spike elastic bracelet. That's kind of what I've been terming it. And you don't need the screws for the spikes. You just get a corresponding set screw, which is basically a screw with no head. And this is a 632 5/8" set screw. And then you start it in one spike, add your bead. And sometimes if you spin it, it'll just turn all the way in. So what I do is I kind of shift the bead so it kind of presses on the set screw. Get this one started. And if they're hard to start, you just go back and forth until it goes click into place and then screw it on. So that's how you make the spike components. And then for this piece, you're going to need 2 of these. And I've got 14 of these, so you need 14 beads, and then 14 beads for the second one. And I've got a 12-inch piece of elastic cord. This is 1mm elastic cord. And then you just start stringing it. Here, let me move this up so you can see it better. I didn't always use the pony beads. I've made quite a few of these, and I used to use basically any bead I could find with a large hole. And sometimes I use really long beads to make, you know, I would stagger it so there'd be like a long bead in the center, and then a spike component, then a small bead, and then a long bead, and then a spike, and so it'd give it some style. But I discovered that these pony beads are probably the most easily readily available beads for this particular project, and they're all different colors, and plus they look really nice with the spikes. So you string it once, and the easiest way to string it a second time is to just try to straighten it out like that. Run your cord through as far as it goes, and then pull it. Make sure you don't pull it off the end. And then continue on in the same fashion. Let's go one at a time. I used to hold them in my hand as I beaded them, but this is a much more efficient process. Plus, sometimes when I held it in my hand, I would find that I was curling it and I couldn't see the end of the cord, and I would wind up unstringing some of the beads I had already started with. So, kind of a waste of time. Alright, so once you got them strung twice, just tie a little knot. And you don't have to get it as close to the end as I'm trying to do. I just have a habit of doing that because it's elastic and it'll give. So, and trim it about an eighth of an inch. Leave about an eighth of an inch. And also, a nice thing about the pony beads is they'll hide the knot, because the knot will kind of slide in between the spikes underneath the two cords. Or I mean, underneath the pony bead. Let's see if I can do that here. I'll start by the knot. That, and then as you wear it, it'll sit underneath the pony bead between the two spikes like that. So we got one, and I tend to hold it so I can make sure that it doesn't pop off. So I go one at a time, slide the bead, add the next one, slide the bead, add the next one, slide the bead. And this is really the most difficult one, is the first row, first side of elastic cord. Once you get that on, it's pretty easy because the first row will hold the spikes. You don't have to worry about them falling off. Hello. There we go. All right. I try to put the knots in the same place, just in case they do pop up. It's not going to look too weird because they won't be all over the bracelet. Like one on the top and one on the bottom. Oops, did I put? No, I see it spun around. Again, just one at a time. Spike, bead, spike, bead, spike, bead. And they will pop off, but it's still a pretty quick process. As long as you can keep it relatively tight as you hold it. And you'll get used to it too after a while. I haven't made one of these in probably a couple months. So, but I'm kind of excited to make a video out of it so other people can make them too. I get a lot of compliments on my bracelet, the one that I made, which I will show in a moment. See, I'm pulling them off the end. I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. I'm pulling them off the end. That's okay though. That happens. No biggie. Yep. It's going to take some time. Basically, the only time you have to really worry about them popping off the end is when you start. Once you've got around at least halfway, it's tight enough that it'll hold the back spikes in. Ooh. The last one's sometimes tricky. Alright, and then just kind of pull it and make sure the knot's underneath. I mean, it'll pop in and out, but so there you go. This will probably be a little small for me. I'm making this as a gift for somebody. It'll probably be a little small for me, but let's see what it looks like on anyway. Yeah, see the knot will pop out every now and then. Let's trim it a little bit more. And you can glue it. Sometimes if I make it out of really like quality materials, I'll glue, actually put a little bit of glue underneath the bead. So here's mine, and unfortunately they don't make these beads anymore. They're beautiful beads. They're made out of anodized aluminum. Hopefully they will make them again sometime, because I bought a whole bunch of them, but I'm basically running out. Here's what that one looks like. Very cool. One more bracelet, and this can be used for necklaces as well. But for this, I'm going to make a bracelet. These are 1/2-inch thin tree spikes, which are kind of neat. They're basically the same as tree spikes, but they're a little bit longer. And you just take your set screw, 5/8" set screw, put it in there, add your pony bead, and then it gives you your spikes. And you're going to need a 4-hole button. I got this one to match the beads. And then you're going to need 2 strands of cord. And I've never actually made this bracelet before, but I'm estimating that I'll need one that's 36 inches and one that's 48 inches. So you take your 36-inch one, and make a loop that'll fit around your bead. And then find the center of the 48-inch one, approximately. And you want to tie a knot, just like your loop knot, about, I'd say, 1/8 of an inch away from this knot. And then also tie one on the other side. And I usually try to do them when I do knots like this, double knots or whatever. I try to make them so they're wrapped in the same way, only the reverse. So this one goes through, around. Let's see if I can explain this. Basically goes through here, down, up, and through. So I want to go this way. And then run it through. I'm guessing that this is the most difficult part of this whole bracelet, getting these even. So you want to take a little bit of time with it. Because everything from here on is just basically tying knots, simple knots. Oh, that looks pretty good. Okay, then you want to keep your shorter cord on the bottom of your bracelet. And you want to tie with the top cord. I should have probably made these two-tone, but I don't really have any other cord this thin. And what I want to do is I want to, oops, see, that's the long one. Yeah. So make sure the short one's on the bottom. There we go. Then you want to wrap around the outside and then through. And then just tie as close and tightly to this as you can. And then you want to do the same thing on the other side. Put your short strand on the bottom. And then you want to run this on the outside of the bracelet, come around and through. That way it'll be a mirror image. And then tighten it up pretty good. And then just continue that and finish putting in all your spike components. And I'll pause it so I can get all those done. Alrighty. Looks pretty good. If it's a little uneven, you know, like if one of them comes out a little bit longer than the other one, you can just kind of stretch it out a little bit. It should even out. And for the last one, since what you have here is you've got one cord on the bottom that will slide back and forth in the knot, and you don't want it to slide out. So for the last one, just going to tie a knot like your original loop knot. See. A good way to do this is to just kind of gradually scoosh it down like that. That'll keep or help keep your cords straight. Alright, so got that one done. Let's see, it goes up and over. So I'm going to go around. And through. You don't have to, make them even like I do, particularly on this end one. I just like doing that. If I can, anyway. Yeah, the beginning knots and the end knots are probably the most difficult part of this bracelet. It seems. Yeah, my knot's a little crooked, but that's okay. And then you just want to take your ends. Let me tighten this a little more. And add them to your button. And I think the best way to do this is to, rather than tie them all together, is to do them one at a time. Or two at a time, I mean. One side at a time. Because otherwise your knot will just be this big giant clump. And also, hang on a sec, let me get this tied. Oh, I don't even know how long this is going to be. I'm assuming it'll fit me. It's not something I'd wear, but I'm hoping that it's a little bit small for me. But I guess we'll see. And you can adjust it accordingly. You can make a necklace out of it too. This technique. Now, to size or to get it even, first you have to get it through, and then you can try to get it even. Yeah, I'll worry about that in a minute. I think what I do for this one, I'd probably use a smaller cord. This is a 1.5 millimeter cord. It's cotton cord. I'd probably go with like a 1 millimeter to do this technique, just so it wouldn't be so stiff when you tie it. But I guess what I'm saying is the biggest I'd go would be 1.5 millimeter. I wouldn't go up to 2 millimeter because that would just be too clunky. Unless you're doing a necklace. It might be cool with a necklace. Alright, let's see how it fits. Yeah, that's good. This is perfect. This will be a little small for me, so it'll probably fit a female. This one will definitely be harder to tie than the other one with just the single strand. But I wanted to provide an option, rather than just the elastic one. I like the elastic one because it is seamless. But I wanted to provide an option, and this occurred to me while I was making the elastic one. So that's what I came up with. This is the first one I made. Probably the only one I'll ever make, actually. But except for necklaces. I'll probably make necklaces like this. For a necklace, you might want to tie 2 knots or use a thinner cord along the top and a thicker cord along the bottom. That way it'll kind of shape itself like this. Yeah, that's a pretty good idea. Actually, this is probably better for necklaces. In fact, I'm going to make a necklace like this. That's going to be cool. And one other thing I wanted to add is sometimes you want to take these apart, and sometimes they're pretty tight. So I had these scraps from my other video, and I thought they're kind of rubbery, these vinyl scraps. Any kind of rubbery type item would do, even a leather belt or something you might have. But if you get one on each spike, it's a lot easier to loosen them. So there's a tip. Have fun. Just a few more things to show before I wrap up the video. These are just some black spikes with black cord. A lot of times the black spikes will come up more of a gunmetal, but these were really dark, so I thought they'd look cool with black cord. And that same technique, but with these things called Chicago screws. These are brushed nickel, and you can use the side with the screws or the side that's just round. I like that side better. And another similar one, I happen to have a whole bunch of old jean buttons, so I made one out of those. You have to use a thicker cord, but I like the way this turned out. And another variation on that vinyl technique. This is a leather cork or cork fabric. Something a little different. And I also wanted to show with the spike components, you don't have to use spike with a spike. You can use just a screw with a head, or you can get something like this and cap it off. Maybe make a necklace out of that, or alternate them. Spike, 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 spike. And this one I'm not going to do a tutorial on because it's pretty self-explanatory. You basically just have shapes like this, punch, punch, and then connect them all like this. And the clasp has a larger punched hole that'll fit around the groove, and then you cut a little slit so that it will fit the top of the spike, the wide part of the spike. And then when you connect them all together, it'll basically be a seamless spike bracelet. And I also used this one, or used some spike components for this one. These are, I don't know what these are called. I just found them at the hardware store. They're, as long as you get something that corresponds with your set screw thread size, you can just put those in the middle. And these didn't sit flush. It was tightened all the way and it wasn't flush, so I added a brass jump ring in between them. And then I cut out the leather band and I punched a bunch of holes, laced it all, tied it off, and I used the same spike clasp technique as in the black and white bracelet. This would actually be really neat for like a costume or something, if you wanted to make some bandoliers or make something that goes around the thigh, like. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of different things you can do with these techniques, and I hope you enjoy them. Also, a ring. And one more quick batch of items. This is just a simple combination of the corded technique on the top and the elastic technique on the bottom. And this is the corded technique. Just start at the bottom, wrap it around, loop your way up. And one side of the necklace has a loop and the other side has a button. And there, on this one, there's a double strand going all the way through. And I had to keep this tight, so I tied a knot on either end, and the knot's hidden underneath the little wooden beads. And another bracelet, and just some spike sets with knots on either end. These spikes have a hex screw in each one. And a very simple necklace. It's a long, thin spike, double cord, and I crimped either end to hold the spike in place. And here's the necklace I wanted to make. These are really cool, kind of metallic, refractive pony beads. And I tried the knot one, but I couldn't get the knots to even out right to make a nice arc for the necklace. But it turns out that if you use an 18 gauge jump ring, one on the top and two on the bottom, it comes out pretty nice. It fits very well. So there's my last batch. Have fun.